episode 992 of Just Joshing. I am Josh. This is Dave. Dave's been back here quite a few number of times. He's got another release he's going to talk about, and we started bullshitting already before we came on the air. So, no, like I remember when I said when I talked, like when I broke 1,000, it might be a little bit more than I thought because there's quite a few people I want to make sure has been on the show at least once before I go on the road. That I've already started doing the road show. Right, I've already started doing it. Like it's on Patreon right now. Right, where I got 7 episodes out.
Nice.
They're going to once this version of the show is finished. They're going to take over the main. Like I'll probably be starting to post them as regular free shows this week, like as early as possibly tomorrow on my actually on my YouTube channel. Again, I've already done a bunch of them. Right, I've already done a bunch, so I got a bunch more to do. But yeah, you're gonna see some of my San Diego stuff within a week on a couple other websites. Might as well jump in and wrap this version of the show up in the process.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. And you've been grinding them out,
always
working hard. It's awesome.
Well, yeah. Well, people like a lot of people go, I want to do this as a living. And don't get me wrong, I actually did a talk on it over the weekend about there are 3 different kinds of creators.
Yeah.
I don't think there's wrong with being wrong with any of them. But if you make whatever decision you make, the 3 types are you do it purely for passion, right? Nothing wrong with that. Some people just want to make money, just make some money doing make something for it, get something out of it.
Yeah.
But you have other priorities. Maybe it's the family. Maybe you have another job you really like. Or maybe you just like a co-interest. I love my creating, but I also love my day job.
Sure.
There's nothing wrong with that either. And then there's guys like me who go, you know what? Let's see if we can actually turn this into a full-fledged living.
Yeah.
Right? They're different mindsets. There's nothing wrong with any of those either. It's just, it's about being honest with yourself about what you do. If I'm going to make this my living, then I have to walk that walk, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree. I think I'm somewhere in the middle of 2 and 3 there, right? Like trying to, if I could do this full time, I 100% would. And I could quit my job tomorrow and I could do this full time. I don't know if my wife would be happy about that, but.
But again, you have, but I mean, like, honestly, an honest analysis of you.
Yeah.
Your family's your priority.
Yeah.
Even more than the comic. You have a wife and kids. You want to make sure they're taken care of. And, well, like I said, I'm not quite sure where you're at, but I get the feeling that the books, at the very least, pay for themselves or close to it, right?
Yeah.
And very least, right? You probably are making. I get the feeling as long as you've been going at this, you get something more out of that than that at this point.
It helps with Christmas.
Yeah,
if I'm putting narrowing it down, it helps with Christmas.
Yeah, which. That's not bad. I mean, honestly, that's not a bad spot to be in, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, but if we were being honest, I mean, and again, your family's first, so you're gonna do what you feel that is best for them first, and then nothing wrong with that, man.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah, I think that there's the people there. I always make the analogy that there are literally thousands of creators like me that grew up with it, that love it, that have those stories, have those ideas, and want to get them out, and work hard to be able to kind of juggle those different aspects of family and a day job and creating, and are happy doing it. I'm pretty happy with the situation. Like I said, if I could do this full time, if somebody gave me $10 million and said, just create comic books, I'd be like, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
But to be able to have the security of my day job, I'm a teacher, to be able to have that security and have a schedule that's not crazy. I don't work 365 days out of the year. Even 300 days out of the year. So it's a pretty good gig for what I need to be able to continue to create. So yeah, it's I'm kind of doing the best of both worlds here.
Yeah, and whereas I've been trying to transfer it. Like but for me, I call it. I do have another job, but it's a side gig. And the reason I say that is because I make more creatively than I do with the job. That's a cool spot to be in. Yeah. I want to keep going, and so I don't need the job anymore. But that's but again, you work towards those things,
Oh, yeah.
right? And in order of the priorities you have. And again, there's no crime in any of that. I just what I realized over the weekend is the real secret is, I think, you can be whatever you want to be, but whatever it's like, but you gotta eliminate the whole idea of I want to do this, but you got to get rid of the but.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Just I want to do this. There's no other answers. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And if you have that nailed down, no matter where you're at in your life, nothing else really matters. I think that's the conclusion I've come to.
Yeah, it's a great conclusion. I think that's where a lot of people wish they could be. I think that most people in a creative field like this struggle with that, and that's that's okay. That's part of the process.
And the thing is, you can be one. There are points like okay, like straight up. I didn't expect to go to San Diego. It kind of happened. Like I about a month prior to the show. A gentleman by the name of Rick Offenberger, who is one of my people I write for on his website. Actually, that's actually one of the things I'm doing today. He goes to me, so would you like to go to San Diego? I'm like, yes, question mark, question mark, question mark. It's a month before the show, so I'm like, I'd love to do this, but I'm not sure how you're doing this. 2 weeks later, I get San Diego Comic-Con sends me a mail with my pro badge. I have a pro badge. I'm like, I gotta find a way to do this, right? I wasn't ready to do it, but you know how sometimes in life you sometimes get an opportunity thrown your way, and you're like, I'm not sure I'm really ready to make this work, but I gotta try. That's literally what San Diego was, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I bet. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I did that, and then I did another writers conference this weekend. That one was a lot cheaper because it was local. But even so, it was like, okay, I might actually have to go get a part-time job for a month or two just to catch up. Yeah. But again, that's an honest assessment, right? It's like it was worth the price for what I got out of that to go do that. Oh, yeah. And that, I'm at that point in my career where I may have to take a step back every once in a while and flip burgers. Like I don't need a serious job anymore.
Yeah.
I can just flip burgers.
Yeah.
That's
and that's great. I always made the joke about 10 years ago, my wife and I, when we were teaching and everything was going good, and when my kids were getting a little older and my wife was on the precipice of getting a job because she had taken time off to stay home with kids. I had always said, and we both had always said, we both were worked in restaurants for many, many, many years. And it was always if we need $200, I can go work a weekend shift at the local whatever restaurant, and we'd be good to go. And I think for us, especially, a decade ago, that was the thing that kind of sustained us, that kind of kept us going before my wife got her full-time job. That ability to be able to grab something else to be able to help get you through whatever you got to get through. That's the difference between, sitting on your butt and getting it done. Right.
Yeah. That's it. And I say all this, and the lesson here, folks, if you are watching or listening to this, is this: it doesn't matter where you're at. Be honest about where you want to be, and don't let anybody say otherwise. Right. And do it. That's it. And that was one of the big. That was it, right? So I gotta be an adult now. It kind of sucks to be an adult, Dave.
It definitely. There's definitely a pro and cons list, and sometimes the con list is like Santa's list, rolling on the floor. You're like, gosh, I wish I was 12 years old, climbing that tree and riding my bike again. But
pretty much. I mean, I have freelance work like coming. Like I already got my next job. I'm on my way to do, which is great. So I do that this afternoon, but I'm also like, okay, you're going to probably have to need some extra money. So I had a really good thing happen. I can't talk about on the air over the weekend. Right. So I'll tell you off the air. Right. Really good thing. So that's also going to be the other major focus for the next 30 days. It's like, oh God, I'm
awesome.
never going to have time yeah, I'm not gonna have time to breathe, and like I'm not gonna have time to breathe,
Yeah.
right. So, but that's where I am at. Like I've been trying to get to a certain place for so long,
Mhm.
and I'm seeing my work pay off, and
Yeah.
that's a wonderful thing. There's still gonna be ups, there's still gonna be downs.
Yeah. That's
I
it.
don't get, yeah, exactly, right. And that's what you want,
Mhm.
right? So yeah, actually,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think you could be in
you'll
the.
dig.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No,
Okay,
I was gonna say you could be in the middle of the grind and go, I need 2 hours to stop.
yeah,
Yeah, I just need 2 hours, or I need today to be able to sit and watch cartoons for a couple hours, and then tomorrow, boom, we're gonna jump onto it. I think that's something that happens from time to time. Or I'll go, gosh, I've got all these pages penciled, I need to ink them. I don't know if I could physically do it right now. I need to stop and watch a television show. And
yeah.
then I will pick it all, like usually halfway through the television show, I'll pick it all up and start doing it during the show.
Well,
My wife's like, you really can't stop for a half an hour, can you? I was like, I can't.
yesterday I did. I was proud of myself. I
Mm-hmm.
did, but I was also. It's the the day after the conference.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm not here.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna try. Like I'm not even. There are some days it's just like,
Yeah.
I'm not here. I'm reflecting. I still put out an audio podcast, but I actually had done it like before the show. I was smart. I did all the hard work before the weekend,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
But I'm gonna release this. It still took me way longer than it should have to hit that button to release the show.
Yeah.
But I was like, that's why it's like I'm fried today. It's
Yeah.
okay that I'm fried today. I
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's totally okay. Like if you continue to work and work and work and work and work and work and you don't give yourself those breaks, and that experience is going to start becoming dull. It's going to start becoming where you don't want to do it anymore because you're not giving yourself breaks in between. So no matter what it is, no matter how passionate you are about something, you need to stop and let your body rest from time to time. And it's not just sleeping 6, 7, 8 hours, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a night, whatever it is, because sometimes it's got to be that mental, rest also of, okay, I'm going to go watch an old Spider-Man cartoon for a little bit, or so whatever it is, to be able to have that. And if you don't give yourself that, your production could halt for a lot longer because you're not giving yourself that time to let your mind and body rest. I think it's super important. You're 100% correct.
Yeah. So here's the other thing that happened 2 weeks ago when I got back from San
Yeah.
Diego. I got my first ever art commission.
Nice.
Like, yeah, I never thought that'd happen. Like ever.
You've been working hard on it. Again, we said it before we started. I've been seeing you all over the TikToks and the social medias and the whatnot. And I was like, gosh, I got to go talk to Josh. But I've noticed you post some of your artwork from time to time, and it's that steady improvement. It's getting there. You're looking great.
Yeah, I'm almost good.
You're almost there. You're almost there.
Well, no. What I mean by that is I have a style. I've noticed this. I do have a style now, which is something I never. Someone goes, "You have a style." I'm like, "Do I have a style?"
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of one of those weird moments where it's like, I kind of do. I
Mhm.
kind of do, and I'm good with it. It's not like but it's like. And it's funny too because I got my first. So this is, you want to hear like a real set. Like I have a very slightly different point of view on people that despise my work than most artists. I think it's just so literally 2 hours before my first drawing gig. This is the part of my first commission. This is how weird this was. Someone's commenting like, "Did you draw this?" It's like, "Yes, I did." And then he sends me this how to draw thing and bashes me brutally for all the. Oh yeah, but I have a slightly different perspective now, and that and this is me doing advertising, and this. If you despise my work for whatever reason, I'm done good.
Yeah.
And no, I look at it that way. I've created a reaction. I don't like. I would much prefer everybody love my stuff. I think we all do.
Sure.
But I can't control the reaction.
Yeah.
What is important is like I got the reaction.
That was that old argument from art school. You hear it all the time. You see the artwork that's just splashes of color on a paper, or it's a tiny red dot in the middle of a white field. And people always say, I could do that. That's not art. Why is that art? Why are we looking at that? Why is that hanging in the museum, or we're sitting here talking about it in a class when anybody could sit there and do it? And the first answer is always, well, anybody didn't do it. That artist did it. You didn't do it. That artist did it. And the other thing is, if we're sitting here talking about it, guess what? It became art. if
Exactly.
it creates a reaction, whether it's positive or negative, that artist has done their job. To be able to have somebody even take 3 minutes out of their day to discuss why they love it or why they hate it, that artist did their job.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's saying, like, I got a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like again, and we've talked about it just a little bit in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna use the other example, which is Howard Stern. The people that hated his show listened to it longer than the people that loved his show.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What I realized was, you know what? They were smart.
Mm-hmm.
They used the people that despised them kind of like as their gophers. And they did.
Yeah.
It was like,
yeah,
it's like you the people that despise you sometimes spread your message better than you could. Why fight it? Why fight it? Just let them, if they're that passionate about it, let them have it.
Yeah. Apathy is the worst thing you could muster up. Like if they're like, okay, great, then you have to adjust what you're doing. And as long as
that worries me. Yeah. Sorry, keep going.
No, yeah, you got it.
I'm just like,
you got it. Yeah, that's exactly it. I think that it's funny. I think that's really for no matter what it is, whatever it is you're talking about, whether it's art or politics or religion or whatever it is. I think the biggest problem we have nowadays is first of all being afraid of, on some level, like fighting with loved ones and whatnot, which a lot of people do, debating or discussing all these things. But I think that the biggest problem we have inside is we don't talk about those differences enough, those things that make us angry or things that we think need to be changed. I think the problem is we yell, but then the yelling becomes silence because people are like, well, we're just screaming at each other. If people could just sit and talk about their differences and not take it personally, not flare up, not completely flare up into anger, you can be passionate about it, whatever that is. But I think that that's one of the biggest problems we have. And when it comes to art, I think that most people, unfortunately, are in a position where they don't understand it half the time. It's something they didn't grow up with. Even though they did, they don't realize they did, that they grew up with it. It's all around us. But to be able to have younger students, to be able to see it more, to be able to talk about it more, we'll create that conversation so that they can have other conversations in life, to be able to not immediately shut down a conversation or a topic or a whatever it is they're talking about that makes them angry. Right. So to be able to go, gosh, that person is saying the exact opposite of what I believe, so I'm going to run away, instead of that person saying the exact opposite of what I think. So let's not sit and let's listen to them for a second. I think it's something that we need to do better. And I think art is one of those things that help us do that.
So I think, I have 12 rules to success. The 9th rule for me is detached from all outcomes.
Got it.
Right. It's detached.
That's a great way. Yeah.
Detached from all. All right. So we've talked about things on this show, but we've taken different sides on the same topic, right?
Sure.
But the thing is, I have never taken our disagreements when we have disagreed on the show personally.
I don't know if we've ever really disagreed. Have we disagreed?
We talked a little bit about the last couple times. We talked a little bit about the I think the last time when we talked, geez, it's been a while, was the whole vaccination thing, right? And we were on different bents, but we weren't
so far away.
Condemnation on either side.
Yeah, we couldn't have been so far away that I don't remember being like, "Rawr."
No, because it never got there because both of us we understood where we were coming from. I got where
of
you
course.
were coming from, and you got where I was coming from. And it was
Yeah.
like, it makes sense, right? I'm doing it this way for this reason.
Sure.
And I'm like, I'm doing it this way for this reason. And you're like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think I even said this at the end, is we're both doing what we think is right in that moment. And
Yeah,
that's
sure.
all any of us can do at the end of the day. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
but going back to like what I mean, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Do you want to jump in before I?
No, I just think that the one of the
So
best
what?
things that we could do is see both sides, or how many sides there are, be able to
Yeah,
see and understand all those sides. Yeah, 100%. That's something that a lot of people don't do.
absolutely.
They can't see the other side. They can't understand the other side, or don't want to understand the other side.
They don't want to. Well, the thing is, that's the whole detachable outcomes thing. It comes from two specifics. We are at our most dangerous, I think, when this is when we are most capable of hurting each other, is when we completely buy into an idea so much. Like it goes like, if the ideas we let inside ourselves are going to be the best or the worst things about us. Because if we let if I this is why I try to avoid constant saying my truth and to keep it to my opinion.
Sure.
Because I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Like I could, like, straight up, I could be absolutely wrong about something. Second point is, since I can be absolutely wrong about something, if I buy into an idea completely, and you're like, well, this is how it works, but I've bought into this idea so completely, it's going to feel like an attack on me. Whereas if it's just my opinion, and you attack my opinion, and I'm not even saying attack's really the wrong word, but you are critical of my opinion. It's just being critical of an opinion, right? And it's not.
You should be critical of your own opinion as well.
Oh, absolutely. But one of the best ways to find out if your opinion holds any weight is, can we have a discussion about it? If you can either, you still don't have to agree with me, but if I have a solid enough reasoning that you understand where I'm coming from, and that's great. But if it makes no sense to you, and you can point out why it makes no sense to you, I have to put that in my banks. We can't always see our opinions outside of ourselves. True. All right. Right. Yeah. That's one of the better reasons of having these interactions. Right. So again, this is why it's important to detach, because by detaching from the emotion of the idea, you can actually listen. Honestly, you're always going to have a bit of a bias. I don't think we can fully escape that. But even so, with that approach, it's harder to be manipulated, I think, because you're always open-minded. And that's what I try to be. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think that whenever you have an ism or an ideology or whatever, a belief that you feel so strongly about, that starts becoming your personality. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Where it starts becoming your personality, then that's where it starts to become a real problem. Like if you are wearing your whatever it is, whatever idea it is on your sleeve, then I think that's where it really becomes dangerous. For not for society, but for you as an individual. Because if you've trapped yourself in that box, there's no way out of that box, unless you start becoming honest with yourself and going, oh, maybe this thing isn't the greatest thing since sliced bread, as much as I think it is. To be able to poke the holes in your own story, to be able to poke the holes in your own ideas or isms or beliefs or ideologies or whatever it is, can be helpful to be able to not only strengthen your resolve, whether you think it's true or not, whatever that is, or that you're right or correct or whatever, but to be able to also see the other side, to where, again, like you said, you're critical, those critical thinking skills of all sides of that situation. And I think that's something that we struggle with in the 21st century, unfortunately.
Yeah, because the biggest thing is, like, remember what I said earlier about liking or hating something?
Yeah.
Like, it tends to, like, I don't just blame the media. Pardon me, I don't just blame the media on this, but I think the media plays a big role in this. Is they've allowed for extremes on any ideology, and those are the things that you often see on socials or on television or on like Twitter or X, I don't know what the fuck you call it anymore. But I mean,
whatever it is, yeah.
whatever
X
it
marks
is
the spot. X marks the spot.
Yeah. It used to be that the algorithm would actually put you with people with your opposite view because it generates it. That's how it generated its revenue. Revenue is they would put you with different people that we completely disagreed with.
Yeah.
And you right. Facebook doesn't do it to the same extent, right? But it does. It does have that capability in it as well a little bit. So there are subtle ways people are manipulated into fighting each other, even on socials. So what happens is again, you get locked down into your ideas, right? And then once you get locked in, and all you're seeing are the extremes, it's almost like you're tempted to pick a side. The smarter choice is, I think most of us, honestly, and then this is just, I think, on the especially on the political stance, we all want to be moderates, right? Moderate left, moderate right, moderate whatever. Like we all, because I think all of us can see like there's benefits to every side of the spectrum. And I think where the compromise comes into play is, okay, which parts of this do we like? What parts of it maybe do we have to compromise on a little bit? And maybe which parts maybe we don't, maybe we shouldn't go down. But I think that's a matter of that's a smaller, more community-based discussion, I think, than a countrywide discussion. But that's the thing, like, right? But generally speaking, again, you and I can have a discussion about probably anything, and probably for about I'll go as far as say is 90% of what we discuss, we'll generally agree. Like there might be little nuances here and there, 90%, and on the 10% we disagree with, I bet you like 8 or 9% of that is compromisable. Right. And that's right. That's what that means is we're more alike than we're different. But a lot of times we forget this because we get caught up in, oh my God, Trump did this today, or oh my God, Biden's right. And I'm like, why? Who cares? Right. I don't care about that. I'm much more interested in what you do. But if you want to talk that way, we can. I'm good with that too. But it's like we're more of the same. But like most of us just want to do our thing and give others the freedom to do theirs. Because really, doesn't matter any other way.
Yeah, that's 100%. I think that the one of the biggest things is when you have those isms or those ideologies, and they start to encroach on government or individual everyday lives. That's when you really start, and we're seeing that a lot, unfortunately. Here, we've seen it for the last since government has governmented in the history of the world, right? But I think that now we're getting so tunnel visioned. A lot of people get so tunnel visioned, and unfortunately, a lot of those tunnel visioned people are the ones that are in charge, the ones that who maybe on camera say, you know, we want this, we deserve that, we demand this, and then when the camera turns off, they're like, we don't really care about that kind of stuff. We're just trying to make everybody mad. You know, we're just trying to pick people against each other.
I've interviewed politicians, and one of the hardest things you gotta kind of come to terms with when you interview somebody with that, and they're an easy one to talk about, is they do believe it to some degree, and they have to. I understood this because they have to go and convince people to go with an idea. Well, if you don't buy into your this is just human psychology. If you don't buy into your idea itself, you can't sell it. Right? You can't. So they have to kind of somewhat find their own personal I think it's where it's easy to lose your integrity in politics. Is sometimes the message is so you just. But if you don't buy into this, you're not going to get what you are really trying to go for out of this. I think, and everybody has to make that decision on an individual basis. But I just speak from my experiences. There is a degree of buying in with them as well, because they have to, and I understand why. Like, I'm not saying that it's necessarily the way I would love to see my politicians, but I also understand there's a little bit of the nature of the beast. I'm not entirely sure how do you escape, no matter what system we create. I'm not entirely sure how you'd escape that completely. You know what I mean? Because you have to buy in, right?
Sure. Yeah. Well, here's a question for you then. So in the political landscape of the last 100 years, 200 years, and we'll stick with just America, right?
Okay,
we'll stick
sure.
with just the United States. Do you think people are more likely to lean towards a politician who uses fear as their weapon to vote for them, or one who uses positive change or moving forward as their focus of wanting people to vote for them?
So
like, if you vote,
no.
say, if you vote for me, if you don't vote for me, these people will do this, and you'll hate it, and your way of life will be ruined. Or, hey, everybody, let's build up this thing so everybody can have the thing, whatever that thing is.
So actually, I'm gonna use I'm gonna answer this. Actually, it depends on what the politician's goal is.
Sure.
If the goal is to win, then yes, fear has become a lot more prevalent. If the goal is to change, right?
Okay.
Right.
So the motivation can adjust.
Yeah, but like because here's the thing, right? I've noticed this as I've gotten older. Maybe it's because I just give a shit a lot less, right? I can ask for stuff a lot more, right? And it's amazing what you can get when you ask for it sometimes, right? And we often forget that even with the president of the United States, everything is a negotiation. And I mean everything.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest differences of politics in the last 200 years is I think the American people have been talked out of doing things for themselves. Right? It's one that's the fear only works because we trust a certain group of people because they know what they're doing. I'm far less convinced of that as I've gotten older and wiser.
But they don't know they're doing.
I'm very, very unconvinced of this.
Isn't it funny when we were kids where we're like, oh, the adults have it all under control. They know what they're doing. and now we're like, they had no idea. We don't know what we're doing. They had no idea. They have no idea what they're doing. Oh man, we're in trouble.
Yeah. But I mean, this is where me being a freelancer, like, I'm a bit of a nightmare for people in authority because I don't look at them the same way. I just don't. I look at them as people straight up, right? I don't care if you have a badge. We're talking, right? We're 100%. Talking, and right, and you may want me to do something. That's wonderful. We're going to negotiate this, and it's weird watching people with authority processing this while I'm doing this to them. They're like, he's not resisting me exactly, but he's not cooperating either, and I'm not sure what to do about it, right? Because what I'm doing is I'm setting my terms for cooperation, right? And that's something that I think that is something any of us can do, but we very often don't do it. We very often don't do it. I started doing this during the pandemic, and I realized it works more often than people realize. Because honestly, it's about figuring out what people really want in that situation, right? That's what it really comes down to. And very often, if you give people what they want, they will scratch your back too. So I've learned this skill set, and this applies to anybody. The reality of the situation, I think, with politics today is or we'll stick to the United States. Canada is worse than this in some ways and better in others. The American people are too used to having other people do their dirty work for them. And I'm talking. We talk about like problems that exist. Now, some of your problems don't have easy solutions. I'm not entirely sure how to deal with your mass shooting problem, because I think that would require the American people to actually be very honest with their dealing with the gun companies and dealing with that military industrial complex.
Yeah.
You're old enough to remember that concept. Not everybody, it's so accepted today that I'm not sure people fully understand what I say. For younger generations, I'm not, it's a history lesson. We have a pharmaceutical, we also have a pharmaceutical industrial complex as well, which is also a big problem.
Yeah.
The fact is, you have all these big, giant, like little monsters inside the system.
Oh yeah.
And to change the system, honestly, requires an awareness of what those monsters are doing. And I think the one thing I will say also, the other big difference too is the average American citizen doesn't know what they can really do anymore. And that's something so you've done that. So to keep people pacified or to keep people to keep saying that things don't change, that's where fear comes in. That's where fear and like, I could make a legitimate argument that you haven't had a unique president since Kennedy.
Okay.
Right. I could make that argument. And it's depressing. Like we this would be alcohol. You would have alcohol. We both would be very sad at the end of it. Right. I could make that argument because there's in a lot of ways, you're not really, regardless of which side of the defense you're on, Biden and Trump are far more similar than they're different. Honestly, right? And
there's a lot of similarities there. And I would argue, I'm not trying to get you off, but Carter had some things in there that I think that could take him out of the list of just having. But he made some major mistakes where he was a one and doneer.
Carter's an interesting study. He really is. Like he is. I will definitely say this. I mean, he is your best argument against that point. Legitimately. I'm not. There's no joke. Yeah. He was such an interesting president. He's worth a study. But even Obama had a little bit of Jimmy Carter in him as well. A little bit. But sadly, he's also a little bit more like the other guys than a lot of people would like to acknowledge. Yeah. But that said, right, the whole thing is understanding. So a guy that uses positivity can point all these things out, honestly. And you can actually make, again, it's about that whole negotiation thing. If my goal is to change the system and not necessarily win, I can say more things about the system. Sometimes when you watch a presidential primary, that there's some of those candidates have no chance in hell. Yeah. Some of them, thank God. But some of them, it's also interesting. Some of them, it's interesting because what happens is they're allowed to say things that the candidates like to win can't. And I think that's an interesting position because you can dictate to some degree what the discussion points are in that situation. Yeah. And if you dictate it correctly, you can affect the change without winning. So to answer your question, I think to win the game today, fear is the primary weapon of choice. But I also think to change the system for the better, the positivity actually does a lot more than people realize.
Yeah, 100%. I think you touched on something really, really important there, especially in the kind of switch between boomers and Gen X, which we are, Gen X, and then millennials, Gen Z, Gen Y, which isn't old enough to vote, if I'm remembering the ages correctly. I think that those younger generations that are coming up are starting to understand how that there are more of us than there are of them situation. So when you talk about those powers that be, like you talked about police officers, and we've talked about politicians, we've talked about whatever it is, corporations. I think that they're starting to see that the ants have more power than the queen. You know what I mean? Like you're starting to see people who aren't taking jobs for $5 an hour, where they'll have to have 3 of those jobs to be able to survive. But then people are saying, well, nobody wants to work. It's not that nobody wants to work. We want to work to be able to feed ourselves and our family, be able to pay our rent, and maybe buy a new pair of shoes from time to time. Maybe go see a movie also. And I think that's something that this younger generation is starting to do really well. I've been watching also these. While anybody would say that, I would bet that a good percentage of police officers are out there to do good. There's also a percentage that maybe don't always know the law. And I'm not disparaging any police officers. Maybe don't always know what the right thing to do in difficult situations are. So you have these people going out and testing to see what police officers will do in certain situations, if they will essentially not back the individual's right to be able to whatever it is, do whatever that individual thing is. And you're seeing a lot of times where police officers kind of get it wrong, just because they weren't trained. It's not necessarily their fault. But they just weren't trained in those specific rights or those specific laws or whatever it is. So you're seeing a lot more people push back on those powers that be, which I personally think is a good thing. If you don't check those powers that be from time to time, they're gonna become too powerful to do anything about. So in my mind, it's not disrespecting. It's not not taking that authority seriously. It's about making sure that the authorities know that they're here to serve the mass amount, the people. And the second that they don't do that is the second that they need to get kind of checked back. Does that make sense? Not to be disrespectful or anything.
No,
but to understand that their role is to protect, even if someone is breaking the law. It doesn't mean you can bash your head in and call it a day. Not that police officers do that. I'm just using an example. Not that all police officers do that.
Okay, so I lived in Phoenix, right?
Mm.
So it was funny because I got to watch. So not only are the police there, but the military police are there, right?
Okay.
So it's the first time in my life I've ever seen cops get their balls busted by another authority, because the military police will go after cops, right?
Yeah,
they will. In certain situations, they very rarely go after civilians unless you're a really dangerous kind of person.
Yeah,
but I have seen them go out. I have seen them bust cops for doing things they shouldn't be doing. So I mean, to the first part, I would say again, it's like anything else. 90% of the people that do their job are just doing their best to serve, right? And that's not just
their best. Yeah,
police officers. That's the military, people in the military. But like but in every group, if it's a big enough group, there's assholes in every group.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think where that kind of veers off is in politicians. If you're a politician and you're not looking at the width and breadth of every person that not just people that voted for you, but every person that you represent in your district, in your state, in your whatever it is, if you're not paying attention to everybody's best interest, then you're not doing your job as a politician. Whatever values or whatever isms or whatever ideologies that you use to be able to give yourself a moral compass, whatever that may mean for some people, if you're not looking out for every person in your district, if you're purposefully trying to push one group down for the advancement of another group, then you definitely don't understand what your role is as a politician, I would say, in my humble opinion.
Okay, well, I agree with the second half of that fully.
Okay.
The first half, okay, so this goes back to something I said earlier.
We always get so deep, Josh. Why do we always get so deep?
Because
why can't we just talk about?
because this is because I have a theory. See, I have a theory. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Here's my theory. You don't get to talk about this too often, and I don't mind talking about it with you.
Oh yeah, and I love talking about this stuff. Yeah, nobody around me ever wants to talk about it, so I'm down. Let's do it.
Fuck it. Okay, and I don't care, right? I really don't. I'll talk about legitimately anything. I don't shy from it. But the first half of that, this comes down to, I think there's a degree of compromise. You cannot make everybody happy. You cannot. You're right. The pushing you I'm completely with you. Pushing one group down for an agenda. Completely with you there. But I do think, and this is just a human aspect, you're not going to make everybody happy.
Sure.
I don't think you can. I think what the real job is there is, okay, what is going to give everybody the best opportunity to keep going. That right? That is it. That is it. Because you're not going, because if you go too much the first half of that, I don't think you'd ever get anywhere, because I just think that it's too many marbles trying to put them in a corner, right? It's just gonna go everywhere, right?
I think you're hitting on the head a little bit better. You're saying it a little better than I. We're essentially saying the same thing, but I think that one of the problems is when you try to, like, if you try to do something, like, I'll give you an example. So, like a tax levy. So there are people who I'll just use school because that's that's where I am. So a school levy to be able to raise taxes for the public school, to be able to continue to just not even to build a new whatever. Usually, it's just to be able to continue to run the school in the normal manner that the school runs. Usually, so there are a lot of people who would say, yeah, you need a few more bucks, so we'll continue to pay taxes to make sure the school can run efficiently. And there's some people that goes, why am I even paying taxes to the school? I don't have any children in the school, right? If it's an older person or someone who decided to never have children, right? So I hear this not all the time, but often enough to where I decided that I needed to have a response. So, if somebody comes up and says, yes, the school, it stinks that the school needs to levy another 0.0005% of taxes to be able to run the school efficiently with nothing being cut or changed. But if that's what needs to happen, that's what's going to happen. My kids go to that school. I want them to have the best education and have great. Let's do it. But then you have the group of people who say, I don't want to pay any more taxes to a school that I don't even have kids going to. Why should I pay taxes to a school where I don't have any kids going to it? And my answer to that question is, well, even though you don't have kids going to school, you don't want to live in a community of idiots, right? So you want to be able to have a school system that teaches reading, writing, and arithmetic, arts, language, music, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills. Because if they don't teach those things, within 10, 15 years, you'll start to see those things become a problem in your community, whether it's a lack of critical thinking and problem-solving skills, whether it's poverty continuing to grow, whether it's literacy levels dropping at a roller coaster rate. So to be able to levy that small percentage more of taxes for you to be in the school, while you don't see those benefits directly with your lack of children in this case, you'll see the benefits because your community will continue to run efficiently because you have people who have been educated enough to be able to do that thing. So to me, it's kind of like that dichotomy of it doesn't directly help me, so I'm going to be against it. And we have a lot of that in politics. But even though it does help the community, if it doesn't help that person directly, they're going to automatically vote against it because they don't see how it benefits in a whole. Does that make sense? And you could use that analogy with, I use school, but you could use that for anything, utilities, for power, for anything in any basic community, to be able to find those places where it may help the whole, but it might not help the individual, certain individuals. So instead of denying other people that, do you know what I'm saying?
No, I hear you. Yeah. But if I were to, so this is how I'll tell you my answer, how I answer it. It's not how I answer it. I usually go to that person and goes like, I look at that where their situation is, and I just ask them this question: did you get here on your own? No, and I go like that, and they go to me, well, what do you mean? Somebody gave you a break, right? Somewhere along the way, someone gave you an opportunity, and they all say this. Oh yeah, someone did. Okay, so think of it like this, and this is how I say this. I think one of the biggest mistakes, honestly, and this is just the whole viewpoint on the student body. We treat it like an expense. What we should be saying is this is an investment, right?
Right. Schools are not in the job of making money. They're in the job of spending money to be able to create adults who are responsible.
But the thing is, it is making money though, and a very, very, very simple, and it's a long game, but it does make money. Look, I want a better world. Forget the moment right now. I want a better world, and what I really want to see is I want to see like people coming up that are as driven as I am, smarter than I am, better, right? Hopefully, now this is the caveat here. Hopefully, right?
Yeah.
Right. The education system is better than when I went. Sometimes I wonder, but don't believe, right? Oh, right. See, yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's the hope, right?
Yeah.
That's the hope. So, what I want is, I have had the opportunity to go chase my dreams. I've had the freedom to do it. I want that freedom for everybody that comes up behind me too, right?
Yeah.
I want someone to give the next generation the breaks I got. In fact, I want them to be better.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that, right? And when I approach that to that very crotchety old person that's retired and doesn't want to pay, and I ask it to them like that, suddenly they get very sheepish. So, right? Right. They get very sheepish and go, well, so one of two things will happen. They'll go very silent. Which creates, they don't want to fight with me anymore because I've kind of crushed them. Yeah. Or they'll be like, I haven't thought about it that way. And because I think one of the biggest things, and this is the we very often take things from an accountant's point of view. And that's the nature, unfortunately, of the world we live in. We live in a world of bean counting, not a world of just doing things. Somewhere along the way, and once you understand that, you like when you have a workforce that's considered a liability on a tax sheet, that tells you everything you really need to know about how we view people as a society.
Yep.
So that tells you it now. Could you imagine if you just flip that and turn the people in employment into an investment? Yeah, it'd be a better world. Just doing that one little thing alone would change the whole complexion of how we view things completely. And that's something that's something that I think is a very old way of thinking that I'm praying to God disappears as we get more and more decentralized as time goes on. That's my hope, but that's the argument you should be making. It's an investment in the future, and maybe you won't see it, but then at that point, just point out, once upon a time, someone gave you a break too.
Well, again, I think you touched on something super important there. You talked about the boomer generation, and then you talk about the millennial generation. I think Gen Xers like us do a pretty good job of saying, leave me out of this. This is on some level, this is not our fight, because we're just going to work. We're doing our job. We're getting it done usually. Right. But I think you're seeing a lot of that. Again,
I'm evolving into a supervillain, David. We'll talk about that a little bit.
Hey, that's great. That sometimes that gets the job done, right?
Well,
but I think we're seeing. Go ahead.
But no, but we'll go there and then we'll go back to you. I just think I've come to a realization that if I'm going to change the world, then I must be directly involved in it. That's what it's come down to. Like if there's one thing we got to shed is what we do matters. All of us. So if we could approach it from that perspective, hey, listen, I would love to be left alone and do it. Right. I can't, how do I put this? I can't fight every single battle. But what do I care about? Like, what do I honestly care about? Because if I care about something, then I will fight for it. Because that, right? And the difference now, like this is what I say I'm becoming a supervillain is, I don't really care who's on the other side anymore. If that's what I really want to fight, if I believe in something, and again, I realize it might violate my ninth rule a little bit. Again, I got to be committed to, but again, there's a little bit of a balance. You got to be committed to it, but you got to be open up to listen when you're wrong. Yeah. But if I think I'm right, and if I think this is a worthwhile fight, I'll fight the world.
Yeah.
And I've learned that you need to have that edge to make any real changes.
Yeah. So here's where I think that Gen Xers are getting that job done. We're the ones raising those millennials that are pushing back, right? Yep. So we're the ones that are raising them with that, those moral values, that understanding of money will not bring you happiness. Do not work for money. Work for your happiness and work for your family to be safe and you to be safe and everybody around you. It's those kind of morals that it's that kind of trenches warfare. Is that the term I'll use? That Gen Xers are doing, where we are not. We're just like, if just leave us alone. We've got our kids under control, and our kids are going to be the ones that we're teaching how to see the holes in the system, the cracks in the system, right? So what you're seeing is a lot of the boomers going, "Oh, nobody gave me this, nobody gave me that," when in fact they did. They gave, the middle class right after World War II was no pun intended, was booming. And to be able to have those systems, to be able to have those systems where they could buy a house, they could raise a family, they could, have that one job, they could work in a gas station and be able to buy a house and raise a family and still go on vacations from time to time. But that's not what's happening now. So I think that it's that argument that Gen Xers are seeing between boomers and millennials, and we're just sitting back and going, yeah, okay. Our kids got it under control. Soon the kids will be in charge, and everything is gonna, not everything, of course, but they're seeing some of those cracks in the system. And I think for me, as somebody who is raising, I think pretty good kids that are going to be the ones that have to take over the mess that's been created. I think they're starting to see, and I think our generation also, we don't sit back and go, you do it this way because we told you to do it this way. You know what I mean? We're the generation that sits back and goes and asks our kids, what do you think about that? What do you think should happen? What do you think, why do you think that thing to happened? How could it have not happened that way? You know what I mean? Like asking those questions, while we do get ridiculed on some level for being like the participation trophy givers, we're also the ones who are creating generations of kids who have empathy, who have an understanding, and who know that the ultimate goal should not be piles and piles of money that does not give you happiness. Money can produce happiness on some level because it gives you a freedom and understanding to be able to do things that you need to do in the society that we've laid out. But to be able to have 70 billionaires and 500,000 families living in poverty, that's a I'm trying to get my hands on the screen. That's a problem that I think that the generation that we're raising is starting to become more aware of.
Ooh, okay. So
yeah, hit me with it. Okay, let's do it.
How do I untack this?
I love it.
I think the other thing is that, okay, technically speaking, I'm right. I'm 1981. So depending on which chart you look at, I'm either yeah,
you're right there.
I'm either Gen X depending on some, or I'm a millennial on the other, right? Depending on which way you're looking at it. But either way, there's right either way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So here's the thing. I think the biggest thing we've noticed is we're not going to retire. And we realize we're not. And we know
we don't have any means. We don't have the means to be able to do it. Yeah.
Exactly. No, it got taken.
Yeah.
Like we watched, like even my grandmother.
And we let them do it. Yeah. And we let them do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, it wasn't just us. Our previous generation let them do it too, because
Boomers started doing it. We saw it happening, and maybe we're too late to notice what was happening. But then when we noticed it, I say the we as in the politicians that we hired to be able to fix this did not. So
well, see, again, this goes back to something I said earlier. Mm-hmm. We trusted other people to do something that we should have done ourselves, right? And the thing is, so we see this. I don't, but what I would teach, what I've been teaching people is, it's not about money, right? And I'm very careful even with well, I'm very careful with happiness, exactly, because that's a
It's a
you
very
need a
objective term,
constant,
very subjective term.
it's a,
Yeah.
it's a subjective term. It's nothing you can concrete. But this is what I do say: it's not about money; it's about time, because time's your real currency. That's what I tell
Yeah.
people. It's about time. You have to create those. Now, again, you do what you want in those moments. That's what, like, honestly, that is the real freedom of the world. Is
Yeah.
it's our
And what's that?
limitation.
Yeah, and what's that phrase that I keep hearing? I've heard it for 20 or 30 years, and especially the millennial generation is starting to really not just say it as like a platitude, but actually live
Yeah,
it. Is they're not living to work; they're working to live.
yeah,
The job that
exactly.
you have should not be your identity. The job that you have should be the thing that helps you to be able to see and explore and understand your world better.
Yeah, if the job's what you want to go for, too. And here's the like, as a freelancer, this is going to sound counterintuitive. The moment I stopped chasing money and started chasing
Mhm.
time,
Yeah.
right, I started making
Hmm.
more money.
Yep.
That right,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's right. I don't,
Yeah.
because I mean, from a concrete, just a concrete standard standpoint, you
Mhm.
need, like, it is a little bit about money, but it's also you got to understand what money actually is. Money's a tool. That's what it
Mhm.
is. That's all it is. At the end of the day, it's a tool, or
Yeah.
it's debt. Depending on how you look at it, it's one or the other. So
Yeah.
if it's a tool to help you get shit,
Mhm.
then you use it for that reason and that reason only. You can
Mhm.
always get money.
Mhm.
Time's another story.
Mhm.
Time's another story. I can't undo that clap.
Yeah.
I can't. There's no mechanism that will let me go back and take that clap back.
Mhm.
We can only go forward. And the minutes we have matter. Most of us do not, like, this almost sounds nihilistic. It's not, but it sounds it.
Mhm.
There is no tomorrow. There's now. So what do
Mhm.
you want to do while you're here?
Mhm.
Because it matters,
Mhm.
right? That's what I tell people, because that's something concrete, right? And
Mhm.
it gives them the freedom to chase their happiness, whatever that looks
Yeah.
like, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because if you understand that it's all about your time, you now have
Mhm.
a mechanism to manipulate to find
Mhm.
your happiness. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that more and more in family life and family.
Yeah.
That shifting of that family values, if you want to use that term. I don't know if I would, but where our parents, my
Yeah.
dad especially, I was lucky enough to have a mom who was a stay-at-home mom, so we always had a parent
Yeah.
there, which was great. But my dad, 5 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
that working, working to live. Living to work,
Yeah.
flip it, living to work
Yeah. Like,
situation that was very common for my generation's parents, and it was just what they did because that's what they were taught to do. You go to your work, you stay there for 9, 10 hours, 11 hours, you do extra stuff, you make sure that you're there on time, wearing your suit and your tie. And I think that if I would say my dad did a pretty good job of being there when he could be there and being there. And I think my dad was there for a lot of the important stuff. But he was oftentimes not because of his work. And I think that if he were to go back and look at it and goes, gosh, I wish I would have not stayed at work for those 3 extra hours. I wish I would have come home and rode bikes with my
so,
kids
so,
or tossed the ball around or
yeah,
played Barbies with my daughters or whatever it was.
yeah, no, you miss it. I mean, there is a little bit of give and take. I think no matter what generation you go into, there's always going to be a little bit of that give and take.
Mhm.
But I think, okay, like I said, the previous generation was taught, hey, you go, you work hard, you'll get what you want at the end. And in your dad's defense, I'm just going to say this: like, when he did what he did, he wasn't doing it for him,
No, yeah, of course
at
not.
least initially,
Yeah,
anyway. Right? He was doing it to give you the
yeah,
best life possible. But
sure.
I mean, that mentality kind of still exists
Mhm.
somewhat today. I was at I was in Vancouver, like working my last bit of this day job I was working at. I knew I was quitting, even like way
Mhm.
before the pandemic. Pandemic kind of derailed where I was going to go next a little bit, but I
Yeah.
already knew I already knew where I was. Like, I had made a decision when I went to Vancouver that I was going to save up a certain degree of money for about
Mhm.
3 to 6 months,
Mhm.
right? So I can get out into the world and transition and take some risk because I needed to take the risk. I just couldn't do this. I had put too much time into this job. But I was watching people in Vancouver because they were deliberately understaffed on every, like, that shift was understaffed on literally every possible way. There were people that were working 10, 12 hours. I would just come in for my shift and go home.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They would try to they tried to force me to they try to get me to get as much out of me as they can, but
Sure.
I didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
So I broke a few supervisors with just how they just like, again, everything's a negotiation.
Yeah.
Everything. So
if
you're
you're
gonna make me
staying
play
2
this,
more hours longer, you're going to pay me for those 2 hours, aren't you? And if they say, "Oh no, you're just doing it you're just doing it to be a team player," well,
but
no.
but even that,
No.
there comes like to your point, there comes a point. It doesn't fucking matter anymore how many hours you work, and also, like, the thought process of, like, and I'm a single guy, I don't necessarily have kids to worry about. Do I want to spend all my time here? I don't like even coming in here for my shift now. Why would I want to stay extra, right?
Yeah.
So I never did, and they would push one little thing on me that they could, but I failed because I didn't like. But then I figured out, like, they were cheating. They were actually cheating a little bit, right? So that half hour difference, they could keep me for an extra half hour. I know they had rules, and then they were bending them.
Yeah.
But that extra half hour it was an extra hour of me going home every night.
Yeah.
So I couldn't get out of that extra half hour. So I decided to make that extra half hour as uncomfortable as possible for them. Because if I'm here, I don't give a shit. I just want to go home.
Yeah.
Right. And they kind of realized this, and they still pushed it because they wanted to get everything they could out of me. But they got less and less and less because I'm not. And that was hard. Whereas the guys they had bought all the way in at 11, 12 hours, like days. And I looked at them like, you're fucking insane. Like you are. I get the cost and everything, but still, you're fucking insane.
Yeah.
One guy, I told him about 6 weeks before I was quitting. I quit actually 4 weeks because the pandemic sped up my process a little bit. Sure. But I told him I was walking away from this. And he didn't believe me until I actually walked away. It's like, you meant what he's like, you meant. It's like, yeah. That mentality still exists in certain jobs. And you got to realize, like, the money has to be good, sure. But the time has to be good too. Yeah. And if I'm going to have to choose, I'm going to choose time over money every single time.
Yeah. Yeah, and you see that. I think you see that in most jobs where they'll say, if there's a job where they go, your shift or your whatever starts at 3:00, but you need to be in at 2:45, and your shift ends at 9, whatever, but you need to clock out at 8:45 before you finish your stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and then you say, well, wait a minute, that's a half hour that that I'm working. Shouldn't you be paying? Oh no, that's just what you do. Because that's just how it is. You come in 15 minutes early to get ready, and then so you're ready for your shift at whatever 3:00, and then you clock out because you're just finishing up your job, and you can leave at 9:00. I think that's kind of the stuff that that's the kind of stuff that corporations have done for ever, to be able to save money, to be able to be able to save money in their bottom line, which hey, well, of course they would try to do that, but I think people are coming a little bit more aware of that. Go, no. If you want me in at 8:45, you're going to start paying me at 8:45. If I'm staying here till 9, you're going to pay me until 9:00. And if I go till 9:15 because you need me to stay to do stuff, you're going to pay me for that also. And I think what it is that the generation before, boomers, saw that as just a part of the job, just being a hard worker. Right? Which is not wrong. It's just being a hard worker. You have a job, you're committed to that job, you don't want to get fired, you whatever. You need me to stay for 15 more minutes off the clock. Okay, let's do this. But then that 15 minutes starts becoming 20, starts becoming a half an hour, starts becoming an hour. But I think that this generation is starting to realize, well, you need me more than the corporation needs the worker more than the worker needs the corporation. You can go get another job. the next day. So to be able to look at that and say you're taking advantage of, like you said, my time, you're stealing my time from me when you don't have any right to do that. And I think that's something that this generation is seeing more. These younger generations are seeing more and saying we have no problem working. We have no problem working hard. We have no problem working for you, but you have to pay us to be able to get that job done. If you want people to come do the thing you need them to do, you gotta pay. You gotta pay so we can pay our rent and eat every day, at least twice.
And if you don't want me to, and if you don't want to, I'm out.
And your company's probably going to go down. Yeah.
Well, no. It just, what you realize is they wanted to create a replaceable worker, like that generation. They wanted to because again, it costs money to have people retire. It does. Yeah. So it's a huge expense for a company. Yeah. Right. So they wanted to save money. So they want to create a replaceable worker. But when they did that, they made themselves replaceable. Yeah. That's basically, in our generation, like isn't going to see retirement. So I mean, I kind of made this decision now. It's like, what do I want to do for the rest of my life? Is I want to work for me. This is one of the reasons why I did it. Was because I just realized there isn't a job I want, and that's not that like right. I'm not afraid to do a job. It's just I don't want it. So do I want to? I had again, my side gig is a hockey arena for the NHL. I work for an NHL team. That's nice. A side gig.
That's awesome.
Right? Yeah, it's really cool. But I'm working in the warehouse there, and they were like, one of the guys in the warehouse goes, "You should work for the trains. You make 6 figures. How many hours am I putting in?" They told me, it was just like, no, God, no. Fuck no. Right? It's like, fuck no. Right? Yeah. There's a point. There's a point. You got to make a decision of what's your life. I truly believe this. We all do what we want to do, no matter what. So the question then becomes, what do we really want to do, and what actions are we taking to make that world real? Yeah. And whatever that is that's the life we live. That's why I said at the very, very beginning, I want to make the word "but." I want to do this, but out of everything, because at the end of the day, you are doing what you want to do. And it might be for the best of reasons, but you got to understand what those are, especially if you want to change.
Yeah. And I think that along those lines, you have a lot of people, the younger generations, boomers and Gen Xers, were more willing to stay at a job for longer that they hated, because that was just what you did. You just had your job. You did that job. You have a job. You're lucky to have a job. Whatever they're paying you to do that job is what they're paying you. But I think that those younger kids are starting to see it differently. It's where they're like, I want to work, but I'm not going to work for 40 years at a job that I hate. I want to go live my life. I want to work, but I also want to be able to sit on the beach. I want to work, but I also want to be able to ride roller coasters. I want to work, but I also want to be able to maybe go to Europe for a week. You know what I mean? Like it's that, like, I think there's that social shift to where they're working to live, not living to work.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been going on for a bit. Like, I'm going on the road with my show. I'll be working while I'm on the show. Yeah. But there'll be things I can do on the road. Right? Because that's
there's always things to do on the road.
God, yes.
Sometimes to your detriment.
Listen. I know this going on.
Hey, you're a single guy. You do what you want.
Yeah, exactly.
You do what you want, man. You're a single guy. You do what you want.
Yeah. No, that's it, right? I'm a grown. I realized. So here's the thing: like the writers' conference. This conference is kind of where I started really getting into the industry, like very taking it more and more serious. I realized that this is where, like, I have a lot more confidence in who I am now than when I started as a creative. And this weekend I saw the difference. I saw it, and it was just like, I've come a long way. I say that like in the best. I'm also a little bit of a monster now. I mean, right, because of the nature of what I do. Because you have to have a little bit of an ego to do what I'm doing. You have to say, I am good enough to get paid to do what I want to do. You need that ego. You need that edge for that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
you got to be humble. You got to treat people good. Like,
Mhm.
like there's a use. Like I've been teaching this. There's a use for the ego. The ego, you use it to fight for your worth, right?
Yeah.
Outside of that, you try to keep it. You try to keep it in a box,
Mhm.
and you try not to like you when you have a sense of accomplishment, but right that doesn't completely escape, right? And you're
Mhm.
confident you can go get what you want, and
Yeah.
that's not an unhealthy belief. It's not,
Mm.
but don't use it to ramrod other people. And it's like, right?
Yeah.
That all said, if at 50 years old you see me with a monoxious red cape and a minion carrying it,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, you can see it. I
Yeah.
can tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It's right here.
Minion.
I'm gonna
Yeah, it's
swipe
like
it.
yeah. Actually,
Yeah. Yeah.
you'll see me at a convention. It's like you fucking did it. I can't believe you actually did it. Right?
That's
And
awesome.
I'm like,
Yeah.
me neither. Me neither. Right? Right, but it is
Yeah.
what it is. Right. The
Yeah.
world is but that's the thing, right? I've come a long way, and I realized like I worked my ass off for it, and in the best and for the
Mhm.
best, right? So going into the next step for me, yeah, it's going to take what I'm already doing and making realities happen.
Yeah.
Because it's what I want to do.
Yeah.
All right. So, and just like you've been this release here. How many issues have you done now?
So I just released issue 25 of The
Congrats.
Offspring, along with the trade paperback collecting issues 23, 24, 25 of the last three issue storyline called Lightning Crashes. And it's collected in a trade along with one of my 24-page one shots, the Sock Hop Killer. So it's 4 issues all in one trade. And believe it or not, at the end of this month, I'm going to be publishing the Omnibus Season 2 Omnibus of The Offspring, collecting Season 2, which is issues
Congratulations.
issue 14 to 25. So I'll have Omnibus number 2 coming out probably at the end of this month. I'm still making sure I'm getting all those little goodies inside there, but it's probably going to happen at the end of this month. So it's been a pretty busy summer, but a great one, getting a lot of stuff done.
Well, first off, kudos.
Oh, thank you.
20, no, I mean 25 issues,
Mhm.
even for a big company.
Mhm.
That's a difficult thing to do today.
Yeah, it's
And
been a grind, but it's been a fun, sometimes taxing, sometimes emotionally draining, but it's been a good ride, and I'm super proud of the work I've been putting out.
how many issues do you want to do with this? I'm saying, like, is there a goal now? Because you've done
Yeah.
25 of these now, right? So I fingers crossed. You know where the story goes.
Oh
right?
yeah, I've had the end of the story for a long time now. I have 54 issues.
Yeah. So
I try to get it to 50, like a solid 50 round number, but I'm like, oh gosh, I need those 4 more issues. I didn't want to take stuff out. So I'm like, I just need 4 more issues. So 54 is the end of the story, and I know exactly what's going to happen. I have it all of it mapped out. It's going to be super cool. I can't wait to get to it. We're at that halfway mark right now. So a lot of those questions that have been asked at the beginning of the story are starting to get answered, and then it's starting to like grow from there. It's, oh man, monsters and mayhem. It's going to be amazing.
Awesome.
I can't wait for people to see it.
Yeah, no, that's great. But I'm gonna take a minute to toot your own horn, dude. That is, I know how hard it is to make one comic. Just one is hard. You've done it 25 times with one book.
Yeah,
and you've told a consistent like narrative in the process. That's, no matter what anyone says, man, to you, that is an amazing feat.
Well,
on
thanks,
its own.
I
Wherever
appreciate
you
that.
go, it is, and you should be very proud of it. It sounds really good, and I hope you get to continue it all the way through. So
yeah, I will, and I have one more thing to plug if you don't mind. I'm actually in the middle of my next 100+ page graphic novel. So on top of The Offspring, I'm also trying to get in between The Offspring a space saga called Latent Lightspeed, and it's about it's kind of, the themes are immortality and how immortality or mortality are linked with our morality, and how we use those ideas to be able to manipulate people, and how we use those ideas to be able to try to get people to get people to benefit the powers that be. We were talking about the powers that be, to be able to really focus in on that young culture and making sure and having people focus on, instead of growing old gracefully, and knowing that with that growing old gracefully comes wisdom and comes understanding and comes more quiet, right? And living inside of that knowledge. It's that idea of you have to be 20 for the rest of your life, or nobody's going to care about what you say. So it's kind of dealing with those issues inside of spaceships and other worlds and aliens and all that kind of stuff. So I'm super excited. I've got 20 or actually 41 pages already done. So I plan to have that out before Thanksgiving. Again, those fingers crossed. I plan to have that out before Thanksgiving, and it's looking real good. I've got my editor keeps coming back with little comments to help me kind of really hone in on what I'm trying to say. And he said this the other day, which I'm super happy about, and I had to stop for a second and just smile. He's like, "These are some of the best pages you ever put out," and I'm like, "Oh, awesome." He's like, "Normally when told me normally when he edits books, he doesn't really read it. He's not really paying attention to the stories, looking at the content. Yeah. He's doing all those things first." He's like, I was reading these pages fast and flipping through them and realizing I wasn't editing. I was just reading it. I wanted to see what happened next. He's like, I had to go back and read them again to actually edit them. So it was a great compliment from a guy who's been editing my books probably almost since the beginning. So I'm super excited about it. I can't wait for people to see it. I can't wait to get it out. It's going to be awesome.
Dude, no, that sounds great. So you're New York based, right? Like in New
yes,
York area?
I live in upstate New York.
Yeah. Upstate New York. So I'm going to have to hit the New York Comic Con to hang out with you at some point. Fortunately, I have access to it. When I'm ready to go, I'll be able to get into the show. So
That's awesome. Yeah. I haven't been to New York since the pandemic started. But I probably am in the next year or two going to start getting back over there to be able to. I'm about 4.5 hours from the city. I have on the 19th and 20th AnchorCon in upstate New York, which is about 2.5 hours, hour and 45 minutes away from Syracuse, north of Syracuse. And it's a great show. Lots of cosplay, lots of creators, lots of people making cool stuff. It's awesome. So if anybody's in upstate New York near Watertown, and they want to come to a great show, AnchorCon is the 19th, 20th, and the 21st.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Mr. Dave, I have always enjoyed our chats. Always. Right?
Me as well.
Good. Yeah. So I wish you the absolute best going forward. And like I said, dude, you have actually, maybe the last thing we'll talk about here, you have a comics career. Like I legitimately. Okay, you have 25 issues. You have 25 issues of the book. Now, including we're just going to ignore the trades for the moment, just because that in itself can be. It is a separate project, but it's kind of not. For the moment, we'll just say 25 issues of a comic. How many one shots have you done?
5. I've done 5 one shots. Yeah, all
Average
different genres with different characters. 24 pages.
Okay, yeah. so that's 30. That's 30.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So.
4-issue miniseries.
So that's 34.
Yeah, and then 100. One other, my first 100+ page graphic novel, which is about 103 pages, all said and done.
So that is you literally have a career. So if you're spending about this, of about 40 books you've released, right, on your own. I think the most impressive thing is I don't think you've used Kickstarter or any crowdfunding, do you?
No, I never have. Not that I'm against it. It's just one of those things where time that we talked about. So Kickstarters, getting putting it all together, getting those books out to people who've bought them, who have put money into it. That takes a lot of time, and it's time that would be taken away from creating the content. So right now, and it could change in the future, but right now my focus is creating that content. In the future, I have enough to be able to run 12, 13 Kickstarters back to back.
You could do that as you expand your. See, I might not be the world dominating supervillain here. It might be you. It might be you actually.
Maybe that's my retirement fund. Maybe that's what I should be doing.
You never know, right? You never know.
Heck, might as well.
But yeah, hey, why not? Why not?
Mhm.
So I just wanted to say, that's an impressive career,
Well, thanks,
and you
Josh. I
should be
appreciate that.
very, very proud of it, right?
I am. It's
So
something that is the 12-year-old when I said I like drawing comic books. Let's see if we can do that. And to be now the age that I am right now, I'm super happy with where I
2,637.
yeah to be able to get where I've gotten pretty much just through blood, sweat, and tears. I'm super, not to be a glutton or anything, but super proud of myself to be able to have gotten to this point and be super proud of the content that I've created. So again, I appreciate you having me on and to talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we have an interview here, Mr. Dave. What do you
I
think?
think we do. I think we've done it.
Okay. So where can people find you?
So correcthandedcomics.com has links to every book I've ever created, including my first novel that I created, which is a Western, The Last Ride to Tyburn, which you can find at correcthandedcomics.com. On social media, all of it, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn and TikTok. If you type in Correct Handed Comics, I'll pop up. You'll see that. You'll see that symbol there from
That's
behind
right.
you there. You'll see that symbol there. And click on it, and you'll see a whole bunch of cool stuff and upcoming stuff and stuff we've done, and lots of cool stuff.
I have one last question.
Yeah.
Why correct-handed? Why did you call it correct-handed comics? If you don't mind me asking.
So I'm a lefty. I'm a southpaw.
Okay.
So we talked about how I worked in restaurants for many years.
Mm.
And on a weekly basis, I'd get it 2 or 3 times where I was writing down whatever the thing was that they were ordering. And I'd get people go, "Oh, you're a lefty, huh? Oh, you're a lefty. You're a lefty." I'd get it all the time. And I just started making the joke, say, "Oh no, I'm not left-handed. I'm correct-handed. So it's right-handed and correct-handed." And all the right-handed people go, "Oh, okay." Oh. So when about 7 or 8 years ago, when I started building the company, coming up with the name, I had a few other names in mind. And somebody had said something about me being a lefty, and I said, "Well, I'm correct-handed." And they kind of did the whole thing that
It's
right-handed
clicked.
people do, and and I said, "Correct-handed." I'm like, that's got a visual that I can put stuff inside. That's memorable, and it just snowballed from there. So there it is. Correct-handed
Secret
comics.
or secret origin story revealed. All right, folks, that will do it for this episode of Just Joshing. I'm going to be I'm more awake than I was yesterday. I did a stream. The only thing I did yesterday was a stream. I was mostly there, mostly by the time I got to it. But it was recovery. So I still don't remember off the top of my head who my guest is on Thursday. But I will be back Thursday for the stream and a guest. But I want to thank Dave for coming on the show. As we are very, very close to episode 1,000, which is just crazy. So
Congratulations on that, Josh. Well, the 1,000 episodes. It's awesome.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd get this far, but I did.
I had no doubt in my mind you'd get there.
Okay, that's cool. But to everybody watching, everybody listening, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. And I'll see you guys next time.